Hi everybody and welcome. I am in the part of my yard that I call my plant intensive care unit, and it's simply just an area of my yard that I have brought all of my plants that have been undergoing stress. And looking around today, they're all looking really good, and I think it's because in this PICU I can give them a little intensive care. And I'll just go through all of these for you and show you how well they're doing. Most plants are in my intensive care unit because of what I have done to them. Neglect, underwatering, over-fertilizing. I'll give you some examples. So these are 2 golden rocket barberries that I bought at a local nursery, and when I purchased them they were gorgeous. We had some extremely hot days, and they just came one after the other of 100+ degrees. And honestly, it took just over 24 hours of not watering this little guy, forgetting about him, for him to dry up. And you can see all this new growth. He's going to be fine, thank goodness. But 2 weeks ago, he truly looked like he was on death's doorstep. There weren't even wilted leaves, they were dried and they were falling off. So I immediately repotted them. When I purchase most of my plants, I purchase them in smaller containers than this, like 2.5 quart containers. And I do that for 2 reasons. One, it's economical. It saves me some money if I don't buy a plant that is really, really large. And 2, I don't have to dig as big of a hole in my yard because I'm the one responsible for doing the digging. That's not to say I haven't purchased big plants and trees, I have, but then I have to go get my husband Mike to help me dig the hole. And I'm impatient, and sometimes he's not home or available right when I want that plant planted. But that's a story for another day. So in buying plants in smaller containers, I have a rule that I have given myself, and that is, if I'm not going to plant them in the earth within the next handful of days, I need to repot them into a bigger pot. And I keep all different size nursery pots in my garage for this reason. But I broke that rule and I did not repot them right away. And this one started to look really, really bad. So obviously I immediately repotted them, maintained the moisture levels, and it has made a beautiful comeback. So I'm going to skip these 2 for right now. I'm going to go to my other barberries. These are 2 orange rocket barberries, and I purchased these from an online store. Now I do purchase a lot of plants from my favorite nurseries here in town and in neighboring towns, but I also purchase a lot of plants online, and I do that because I can't always find what I want at the nurseries. I can always find what I want online, and they've always sent me gorgeous plants. Well, these came packed up wonderfully, again in 2.5 quart containers, and I'll have Betsy. Betsy is my daughter, and she is also my co-adventurer on this YouTube journey. But she's also our editor. She edits all our videos, and you've seen them and you will see them. She is awesome. So I'll have Betsy put up a picture of what they look like when they arrived. I unpacked them the day they arrived, and this is what they look like. The soil was dry. In fact, a lot of times when you buy a plant from a nursery or online, it doesn't come with like a real premium potting soil. This is potting soil. It comes with a more mulchy, barky soil that dries out quicker. So that, on top of the fact that they were in smaller pots, they were completely dry. There wasn't hardly a leaf on them. The thing about online purchases of plants is you have the disadvantage that you cannot choose your plant. I'm sure there's a quality control that the people that choose your plants for you follow, but you just can't be as choosy as if you went to a nursery or a garden center yourself. So we're going to put a video onto this right now that just shows how nice it is to be able to choose your plants. I went shopping with Betsy, and here's how that went.
I'm at Lowe's right now, and I'm looking at these 2 Australian tree ferns. I'm almost positive that's what they're called. and you can see here that there's a ton that are available, and like actually able to you're able to see which one you kind of want. But I've picked out these two so far, but I'm at a crossroads because I don't know which one to get because they both look so pretty. I think it would look so pretty in my room, but they both look so healthy and so nice. I just don't know what to look for. So we just wanted to add this little clip because we think it's nice when you come to a nursery or a big box store and you're actually able to pick out which plant you want, and you're able to see and kind of assess which one you want instead of ordering online. I order online all the time, but other than ordering online and then having to deal with you get what you get, and maybe you have to rehab it, or maybe you have to or just not get the one that you really wanted or how it looked, how you wanted it to look. So yeah, I get to choose these ones and I don't know which one yet.
These two Korean spice viburnum are in my plant intensive care unit simply because I dug them up from behind a little retaining wall in the backyard. I bought them at the beginning of the year from Lowe's, and they were small, and they've already grown. And there's no way they're going to grow to their full potential if I had left them where I originally planted them. And I'm not ready. I know where I want to plant them, but I'm not ready to plant them there yet. So I repotted them. They look fine. I have them in the ICU though, because since they were dug up, I want to make sure they don't go into shock. But it's been over a week now, and they're still looking great, and I'm keeping their soil moist, so I'm not worried about these guys. So these two hydrangeas are the last two patients in my plant intensive care unit, and I bought these from Proven Winners. They are Let's Dance Blue Jangles hydrangea, and you can see, since Betsy's zooming in on it now, there is new growth here. So despite the fact that this is as dead can be, it will start from scratch. I'm just thrilled that it's still alive. And this one, I did not let get as bad as her sister. I didn't let her get to that stage. Now this again is my fault. They arrived, they were in nursery pots. I kept them in filtered shade and kept them watered. I just wanted them to acclimate to our climate. We live in Reno, Nevada. We're in zone 7A, and it gets very hot in the summer and it's very, very dry. We're in the high desert. And so I just wanted them to get used to our climate, as I said. And then I potted them up in these clay pots, which were a tad larger than their nursery pots. And I used a nice potting soil. I didn't check on the root ball. And I think what happened over time, the root ball was so matted and so dense that when I would water these plants, it wouldn't soak down into the root ball evenly. It would kind of drain down the sides and out the drainage hole at the bottom, and they were getting drier and drier and drier. Now, when they bloomed pink, and I have a picture of that I'll have Betsy put up for you. And I was a little disappointed. The pink was really pretty, but I was hoping for a purpley blue. And so, those of you who know, to get hydrangeas that are able to change color, you add an acidifier to the soil to get the flowers to turn blue, and you add an alkaline fertilizer like lime to get the blooms to turn pink. And so I threw a handful of soil acidifier on top of these poor plants, and they did have a lot of roots like they do now up top, and I think I just burned them. So I compounded the problem of the fact that they weren't getting enough water to the interior of their root ball with soil acidifier in this limited space right on top of their roots, and they immediately went into distress and started to die. So we have one more video that Betsy shot, and we did these all at different times because life has just been crazy and we just couldn't do it all at one time. But we have one more video that we're going to show you where I actually took one of these little guys to surgery, and I gave them a soil transfusion, you would say, and repotted them up. And so I'm going to have Betsy throw that video in right now. I just bring them in the back here because it's messy business. They're almost going through surgery to get the roots out of their circular formation. So I watered this. I really gave this a good soak. So I'm going to kind of ease it out of this pot. You can even see some of the soil acidifier on the surface here. And it has not ventured out into the pot. And when I go to massage its root ball, I can't even get my fingers in there to get those roots to break up. And look, they're even coming up over the top of the plant here. So they're going to the surface rather than into the soil. So I'm going to do a little surgery on this guy, and it's going to look a little rough, but I certainly can't do it with my fingers. So I have my instruments here, some garden tools, and a knife just in case. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the bottom, and I'm just going to, I'm not even coaxing at this point, I'm really pulling the roots out from the interior of the plant. And it's not real easy to do, which tells me I need to do it. You couldn't do this with your plants, could you, Betsy?
No. Watching you do this gives me anxiety.
So I'm going to put this off to the side right now. Well, here's the thing. And some of you may say, oh, there's new growth here. And some of these branches are green, but these were all green. And they are slowly turning brown and dying. So my fear is it's going to end up like its sister back there. And it's a stump, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse because all of these were green. And if it sits and it doesn't get enough moisture to the interior of this root ball, it's just a matter of time before I lose it. So at this point, I truly have nothing to lose by doing this. I'm going to gather up the soil that was in its pot because it's only been in here a few months. And see, you can see the soil acidifier is the white powder. And I do think it burned it. It was just way too much. And I still have a little garden debris at the base of that pot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some fresh potting soil. And I'm just going to mix it up. I want to dilute that soil acidifier. And I also want to disperse it evenly, more evenly, into all of the soil than just throwing a couple of handfuls on the top of the plant did. Okay. So then I'm just going to repot it just like that. I'm definitely not a scientist. I just go on past experience, and I know what I've done to the plant. I know that I put soil acidifier into a potted plant and probably burned it, so I had to dilute that soil. I saw how when I watered this plant, the water would fill up the top, and I figured out it was probably just draining out the sides and not penetrating the roots. So I just deduced by changing the potting soil and watering it, now that I've loosened up the root ball, it has a chance of survival. Just like that. Okay. So I'm happy to report that I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 plants 7 if you include the snowball bushes, are doing really, really well. And the snowball bushes and the barberries are going to be able to go into my garden in September. The hydrangeas I'm going to keep an eye on. I do think they're going to be fine. They're going to have to start their growth from scratch though. They're going to have to produce brand spanking new branches from the beginning, but that's okay. That's okay. I can be patient with them. So as you can tell, the plants in my plant intensive care unit all can be moved. They're very mobile. If I have trouble with a bigger plant or tree in my yard, I'll simply take a cutting and bring it to one of the nurseries. And 2 of my favorite nurseries, Moana Lane Nursery and Rail City Garden Center, have arborists on staff, and they've helped me with countless problems I've had with bigger plants that I can't move into my PICU. Or if one of these plants were to have a problem that I couldn't figure out, I would go to them for help as well. But for now, simply with a little tender loving care, all of these look like they're going to make it. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that it just can be so easy sometimes. And they're all going to make it into my yard in September. I'm going to keep the hydrangeas in the pots, and I'm going to keep a close watch on them. Well, thanks for sticking around with us. Thank you, Betsy. And we'll see you next time.